Hello and welcome to Crickpedia, and let's analyze the second test match between England and New Zealand at Edgbaston and how the teams fared in this 5-day cricket.
A quick summary, captaincy masterstroke, inspiring story, and what's coming up.
Well, let's quickly summarize what happened between England and New Zealand in the past few days when it came to test cricket. England very well knew that New Zealand were clear winners at Lords, and rain helped England save that match and end it in a draw. There were a lot of things to talk about. They had a man get banned just because of a few tweets he made a few years ago. Well, they don't have their main players as we previewed before the first test. How do they come up against this Kiwi side? And a resurgent England side came up and scored 300 on day one. And that actually made a statement. Rory Burns once again getting off to a flyer, scoring runs very nicely, very comfortably driving the ball, scored 81. He was the solid man from England when it came to their batting front. New Zealand were doing their job. They were trying to take wickets, they were trying to be as effective as possible, but they allowed England to get to, well, a good 300 total on day one. Then came the Kiwis to bat, and New Zealand again pretty solid, continued their form, scored 380. You had 80 scored from Devon Conway, Will Young, but I spoke about him in the preview before the first test, saying that I'm very excited to see this youngster. He got a chance instead of Kane Williamson, the captain of the side who was rested. Well, he got 80. Then you had Ross Taylor, the experienced Ross Taylor, scoring a flashy 82, 80, very good 80 of 139 balls. And well, the way he batted showed that New Zealand were up for that 300 scored by England, and in return New Zealand scored 388. Now an 80-run lead isn't a big thing when it comes to Test cricket, and more so if you have had a very good first innings score, and England did have 300 on the board. But then what came in England's favour was nothing, because they got all out for 120. Nobody making a mark in that England innings, and it was poor. It was not something you would like to see when you're an England fan, because scored 300 in the first innings and then getting all out in 120. It's disappointing. It's not something you want your stars to do. Well, who made them all out? Because there was some good stuff done by New Zealand to get England all out for 120. It was Matt Henry, not included in the first test. Tim Southee, Colin de Grandhomme, Kyle Jamieson all being rested so that they are prepared for the World Test Championship final. You get in Matt Henry, he takes 3 wickets for just 36 runs, dents England's top order and completely formulates a win for his side, and which was so important for New Zealand. And then you had Neil Wagner showing his experience, showing his class, getting 3 wickets for just 18 runs, bowling 10 overs, was superb. And that's how England's second innings was an absolute disaster. Just getting all out for 120 wasn't something they expected, wasn't something I don't think even New Zealand expected, because the kind of 300 they posted in the first innings was so flamboyant that probably New Zealand thought that they are in for something, because in that 300 you had contributions from Rory Burns, as I said, then you had contribution from Dan Lawrence, he again got an 80, and then you had Mark Wood scoring runs. In the same side, 120, it was something that New Zealand didn't expect, and to be honest, England would have never thought of that. Then New Zealand come out just chasing 38 runs, lose 2 wickets, that's fine. They cross the line by 8 wickets and are comfortable winners and seal the series 1-0. And what does that do? It ensures that New Zealand have finally won a test series in England after 22 years. It was a long break, and well, under Captain Kane Williamson, or let's say Captain Tom Latham, well, a bit of both of them, New Zealand have accomplished this feat, and with a lot of joy, because they have done it in absolute great fashion. Now, was there any captaincy masterstroke from any of the sides? And I'm sure it was from the New Zealand side. It's not only because they've won, because they got a reason to win by that masterstroke that Tom Latham pulled off. The inclusion of Matt Henry, almost somebody who wasn't in the side for a long time. People started doubting that, is he a proper red ball bowler, or is he just for white ball cricket? And then all these questions were put to rest when Matt Henry completely destroyed the English top order when it came to the second innings, getting their good informed batsmen out early, setting up a perfect platform for New Zealand to execute a superb victory. The other masterstroke Tom Latham pulled off was the inclusion of Will Young. How many times do you replace the captain of his side with an amateur player who's trying to make a mark for himself in professional international cricket. And it doesn't always pay off. I mean, Kane Williamson has more than 10,000 runs behind him in international cricket. And then somebody of Will Young's caliber, who may cross Kane Williamson in the coming years, but right now is certainly behind Kane Williamson, comes off, replaces Kane Williamson, and then scores runs. Scores a good 80 against a very experienced English bowling lineup. You have the likes of Anderson and Broad. Well, Will Young stood there firm and he did it for his side, which is such an important part, because if you have the confidence of the captain behind you, you perform. And that's what Tom Latham did. He gave them a lot of confidence, and that's the kind of masterstroke he pulled off in this second test at Edgbaston. Now, is there any inspiring story in this match? In fact, this entire series, the scoreline may not suggest just 1-0, pretty dominant display from New Zealand, but this series was an event of many stories that unfolded over the last few days. You had Devon Conway, a superb debutant, score a double hundred in his debut and score an 80 to back it up in his second test match. Was such a fascinating story for any New Zealand fan or any cricket fan in general. You just see a newcomer do such a great performance when it comes to international cricket. Then you had the inclusion of Matt Henry, as I said, won the player of the match. And well, it does make sense, because the kind of bowling he did, with the kind of pressure on him, he's replacing Tim Southee, one of the prime bowlers of New Zealand. And well, he did justice to the role he was given. And that's why he's another very inspiring story from this test series. Then you had Rory Burns, almost said that the test match batsman in him is dying off. It's all that Joe Root is scoring runs everywhere. Got 100 in the first test, got an 80 in the second test, was scoring runs consistently. He's another inspiring story. Also won the Player of the Series award. He shared it with Devon Conway. Well, he deserved it. And another inspiring story from the series was that New Zealand, after 22 years, have crossed the England barrier. It takes a lot of heart to win a series in England, because those conditions aren't that easy. Yeah, many will argue that New Zealand conditions and England conditions are similar. They should have won easily. But it's the quality of team they're playing against. England is not an easy side to play against, especially their batting may not be that power packed, but their bowling was pretty decent. And scoring runs against them, especially debutant scoring runs against them, makes a lot of difference. And that's why this series win over England is very inspiring for the crowd of New Zealand. And well, they should rejoice. What's coming up next in international cricket? Now, you have completed one series between England and New Zealand, fascinating two big teams in world cricket, and the contest was not that even. It was pretty much dominant in this, pretty much a dominant display from New Zealand. They quite easily completed the English barrier. And now, what do we have next in international cricket? You still have one test between the West Indians and the South Africans. I've given the preview. I've put the link of the preview in the description. Do check it out. And with that, we have a World Test Championship final starting on the 18th of June. Do stay tuned. I'll be there, and we are going to go through this fantastic journey of two teams who are almost going to cross the biggest barrier in Test match cricket.
Time for last week's M Factor question. When did New Zealand last win a series in England? And we did get an answer. It was from Vidhu Neve. The Test series, the last one in England, was in 1999, more than 20 years ago. Well done. If you enjoyed this cricketing fun, do like, share and comment. And to know more about my upcoming videos, do subscribe Crickpedia and hit the notification bell. Thank you.